Sean talks about adjusting the sails. You know, that's a really good analogy. Amanda, good to have you on. I don't know if you've come on previously, so...
I know Amanda. Used to work with Amanda. Hello there. How are you? Great to see you.
Hopefully you've stayed the course, and that's
she's doing very well and doing. So Amanda does a lot of pottery. So if you're looking at different pottery, she's a lovely lady, incredibly kind-hearted.
Where's she located?
Here in Brisbane, Vegas. So she's a
Queenslander. Plug.
I can't recall her name, but Amanda, plug it in the comments. But does all sorts of pottery. So if you're looking for something, gifts for Christmas, reach out to Amanda.
Oh, actually, when I was running today, one of the bars had a big pot, actually pushed over.
Oh.
So, you know, maybe some drunken antics last night, but
they could be in need for a new pot. So there you go.
Right.
Reach out to Amanda. Fantastic.
Helen, good to have you on. So we've been talking about disconnecting from the outcome when you've got that vision in place. And really focusing on the process for yourself, and then just putting the memory bank for later. Like I've done this for myself, where I put a sign on the wall, or like some sort of writing or a picture or something like that, and then really detach from it, and think about what things I need to focus on. So I guess the next part is, what will attaching to the outcome actually mean to you? Well, how will this correspond with our lives and going through the process if we're attaching so much to that outcome? Tony?
Yes. So let me take you through the process that I do. So I go through my goals every morning. I also then visualize my goals. I have countdown clocks in my phone, etc. But then I park it.
Well-oiled machine.
Then I park it.
But then he's late for today.
Well, I was so focused on this US election stuff, it's enthralling. I wasn't late, I was just later for it. But anyway, but then what I do is I then park that and I focus on what I need to do today. Because my goal is years into the future, but it's what I need to do today. Because if I don't do the things today that I need to do, then it doesn't inch me closer towards where I need to get to.
Well, even for you, for your business, this is a big part of putting yourself out there for your business as well.
Correct.
And this is material that you can use in terms of this is what I do. I'm giving value on a constant basis. I help people, via a video, and it has helped people. We know that, and this is a big part of your thing that you do. So these steps that you're doing today by coming here, driving out 15-20 minutes to get here, to turn up at 8 o'clock on a Sunday morning to make this happen, is what Tony is going to get towards his goal of being. If he doesn't turn up today, that's someone else that doesn't know about you.
Well, I have. So they talk about two guarantees in life. The first one being death, the second one being taxes. So not in that order. And but the third guarantee I say to people is that if you give up, then you're guaranteed of not achieving your outcome. So when you go for a goal, you're not always assured of the outcome. You're not always assured of achieving your goal. But by golly, you give yourself half a chance. But if you stop, if you stay down, if you get knocked down and you stay down, then I guarantee you will never, ever, 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 ever achieve your goal. And so it's about getting back up, having the faith, the belief that I'm doing things today that are inching me closer towards where it is that I want to get to.
Yeah, really, it's really good. Hayden says the war is in your head. I think it's a bit of a personal joke. Imagine if you thought the leader of the country affects your own life.
A lot of people do.
They do.
A lot of people
And I think that's what Hayden's referring to, the war is in your head. Because I guess that analogy around that was like... a lot of people think there's going to be a civil war in the US and so forth, and Hayden's referring to it as a war in your own head, because you're just so attaching to, this is another attachment, right? Attaching to what the media is talking about.
Correct.
And if you get in towards that space, how is that going to affect you in your life?
But even in Australia, right? So I know we talked about the US a lot, but in Australia, so we've just gone through a Queensland election. You're in property. Property sales slow down leading up to an election, don't they, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Because people are concerned about the outcome. The outcome, quite frankly, doesn't have that big of an impact, right? But yet the masses slow right down and sales dry right up until the election gets done, because they think that miraculously there's going to be this massive change of direction instantaneously. It doesn't happen that way, but nonetheless, I've got my own views on this, but I see it all the time here in Australia, and you would see it as well, mate. Doesn't have to be in Queensland. The natural federal election, or in New South Wales, or even council, things just slow down because people think there's going to be huge change, and there's not.
Yeah, the world keeps going on. There's been many and many elections, and I think it's just so important for us to realise that about it. People talk about the media or negative and whatever. Well, deal with it for yourself.
Correct.
This is where you got to just don't focus on what they're doing, what they're saying. The reason why I watch the media is to see what the general population are going to think, so that I can do something different. Because if they're not buying property, well, there's going to be less competition for me, and then chances are I'm going to get a really good deal. So this is what happens in recession times, prior to election. People are as fear and uncertainty, and they do nothing. Zero, nothing gets done, and they just sit back and just wait and wait and wait, and they go, I wish I bought property 20 years ago.
Correct. And so that was probably the best time to buy property 20 years ago. But guess what? The second best time is today, right now. So
buy.
Right?
That's what I say.
Yeah,
buy.
100%.
And it's kind of like action. It's like this mindset thing we were talking about. It's action. That is the big thing. Taking those steps daily. You've got your outcome in the back of your head, that end goal that you want to achieve. But action. It's the same way in property. Buy. Same sort of situation. Hopefully that instills a little bit of thought into. Hannon says, I don't watch the news. It's kind of an interesting one. I don't watch much of it. Jose has also come on. And we want to talk about the third one. This is that next part, the goal, where the goal comes into reaching those outcomes. And I really think it's more about the process that you are dealing with rather than the outcome. The outcome is like, okay, yeah, as soon as you get to that outcome, it's like, okay, what next? Especially, I guess, for someone like me, I don't know if you had a different personality and got to the outcome, you celebrate, but there's got to be something else afterwards. Always be buying, says Hayden.
Well, it happens so often. So you'll see people, might be sporting people, who have this goal to reach the pinnacle of that particular sport, or it might be Olympians or whatever. And so many of them, when it stops, they have nothing post that. And so they go through this enormous hollow period. And a lot of them go through depression because they're used to getting all the adulation from the crowd and getting doing autographs and all those types of things. They've got nothing to look forward to. You always want to have something in front of you to look forward to work towards. And so, and there'll always be a bigger mountain. So you'll get to your mountain, but there'll be a bigger mountain, and there'll be a bigger mountain and a bigger mountain. And that's the approach. The approach is to constantly move in a forwards direction.
So that third topic we're going to talk about, really enjoying the process, is that what are the daily tasks? What are the daily steps? What is that focus for you on a daily basis? Do Tony and I just go, we're tired, we had a late night last night, we're not going to get up and do the 8 a.m. Sunday mindset session this morning, where there's so many people that want to come on and enjoy the banter that we have, the inspiration that we can give, the deep-seated thoughts that we talk about. And it's about that daily task, daily steps, daily focus, and being unwavering and persistent and determined in that process. Yes, we might stray a day here, day there, or a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there, and that's okay. We're all going to have our little ups and downs, but as long as we get back on the horse.
100%.
Melbourne Cup.
Because not every... that's right, not every day is going to be smooth sailing. I talked about it before. There's going to be days that are dreadful days, and there's going to be things that happen, but it's about how you respond to that. And how many days are you going to keep yourself down? And how many days are you going to wallow in your own self-pity and dwell on the missed opportunities?
Pop up.
To a
Let's
point
go.
where you get up and you move forward. Now, if only it was that easy. So, I have had my own personal challenges this year, and it's taken me a while to get through them. And I teach people this for a living. But eventually I got back up. Eventually I've moved forward, and now, the business is going bigger and better than it ever has.
It's been really good, actually, to put credit on yourself, Tony. And you've been exploring and talking about some of the things that have been tough for you through the year, but it's unwavering, and you're persistent, and there is easy that you could have just shut down everything and just being your own self-pity, and it would have been really easy to do.
Yeah, and look, I don't, not keen to go through this publicly as in what happened. I know you know privately, Luke, but for me, it's been tough. It's been incredibly tough for me. It's been incredibly personal, and it's about we had to get that situation sorted, and that situation took a long time, but it's also me recognising that life has to go on, and I have obligations, I have responsibilities, I have goals that I want to achieve for myself. I need to make sure that situation that I talked about is right, but also I've got to keep moving forward.
And kind of like a purpose for you, because if then you're sitting there dwelling and all those things and just caught up in that, and you're not doing anything else for yourself, how are you going to be a better person for those sort of situations as well?
Well, we talked earlier about leadership, and leadership is a behaviour, it's not a job title, and we talked about people are watching you, and even though you think they're not, they're watching you, and so...
Dean Dawson's back on.
Dean's on. Dean's a regular.
Good on you, Dean.
But people are always going to be watching you, and so again, for me, we loop back to what we talked about with influencer. If you're influencing one other person, we are influencing people here today. We're giving our viewpoint. We might be influencing one person, and I would say
maybe Donald Trump needs our help right now.
Maybe he does. No, it's all gone. So the Democratic election has happened, and it's all over. So
Tony Gallagher says you might want to talk about this in a moment. The going to the moon syndrome.
So JFK. So JFK and Tony. I'm going to get the quote wrong, but it's about JFK. It's a fact of.
You're never wrong, Tony.
I will be wrong. It's the case of we're going to the moon. I think because we can. Something along those lines. Tony, if you can give me the quote, but it's at JFK, that's why they're going to the moon.
Hayden got up at 4 a.m, listened to some audiobooks. Good on you. I think he's listening or reading the audiobook. I think it's called... You're going to have to remind me, Hayden, on that one. It seemed like a really good book. I haven't read it myself. But and Ken Murray says, when those bad days come... How can you change it for the better? How can you leverage others to help you change your mindset?
Yeah, yes, sure. So have others around you to help change your mindset. But here's the thing, Ken, is that the ultimate is about changing your own mindset. So if you're going to rely on others to help you change your mindset, I understand why people do it, and I'm not saying don't. But what I'm saying is the ultimate is being able to change your own mindset, not relying on others. Because, quite frankly, you can't always rely on others. Others aren't always going to be there. It's nice to have close people around you to talk about stuff. And I know that I lent on you a lot, Luke, and I lent on some of my other close friends earlier in the year. But also, ultimately, whilst Luke gave me advice, suggestions, etc., ultimately Luke doesn't do the heavy lifting for me. I had to do it for myself, and so it's important to you take the advice of others. Some you may think, yeah, okay, I can do that. Others you might discard it, whatever. But you've got to still do the heavy lifting.
The realization is that we are actually alone within ourselves. Like, it's our own thoughts, it's our own dwelling that it is. I actually put a little bit of a video around this of you're alone in your own thoughts. And I use that analogy of me when I was running. I'm alone in my own thoughts. Yes, there's other people running around me or running past me or whatever, and there's a couple of waves and smiles and so forth, but ultimately you're on your own. And okay, you can reach out, and that might help. The questions of conversation, like Hayden said earlier, might help you with that. But ultimately, you still got to digest that for yourself and work out those deep-seated fears and uncertainty and anxiety and all these things for yourself. Yeah. It's those quiet moments.
100%. We don't have enough quiet moments, quite frankly. So what we tend to do is we tend to distract ourselves with this thing. We tend to distract ourselves with the television, etc. We need to have more quiet moments. It sounds like Hayden spends a lot of time reflecting, which I think is incredibly important.
Ego is the enemy. He's reading.
Okay, great. And it is the enemy because it gets in the way, right? And it's all around being vulnerable, being true to yourself, being very self-aware. It's incredibly important. So it sounds like it's a good book. I haven't read it, Hayden, but it sounds like a good book. Tony Gallagher came on and talked about the moon. So he was actually referring to not the JFK statement, but rather the fact that the astronauts went to the moon, then what? They had nothing after that. They'd reached their mountain, and then they didn't have anything after that. So it's a good point that you make, Tony. So apologies that I got the reference wrong.
That's okay. Sean says the problem with excuses is that they are valid. And it's how you deal with them that makes a difference, and that's what Tony was referring to earlier in terms of responding. Kelly and I have many reasons that we could use it to sit and just dwell and could just sit around and feel sorry for ourselves, but these actions won't get us where we have always aimed to be.
But are they, Sean, I would challenge you on that, are they really valid? And look, we all have this thing in our brain. It sits at the top of our spine, base of our brain, and it's called the Reticular Activating System, or the RAS. So look it up, Reticular Activating System.
Have you heard Tony speak about this one before?
Once or twice. Okay. And what it is that it will filter out all the things that it doesn't think that you want to hear and allow in the things that it does. For example, if you want to find negativity and excuses for not doing things, then you will find negativity and excuses in every corner of your life. But if you want to find positivity and optimisms and reasons to move forward,
Just talk to Tony and I.
then you can do that as well. And try it with yourself. So if you have just bought yourself a new car, for example, or you've got a car, and all of a sudden it happens where you might go and buy a Toyota, and you drive along and go, oh my gosh, look at all the Toyotas that are around. Well, it's because all of a sudden Toyota is now coming through your process. It's now being allowed in, and now you're seeing all these Toyotas. Those Toyotas were always there. It's just that your mind didn't think that you wanted to see them, hence it closed it off you. And the same as us, and it's the same as us blokes. Quite often, it's like I'll say to my wife, "Where's such and such?" She says, "It's right in front of you." And it's because my Raz has kicked in and it's filtering out all these things. And so, but it happens to me all the time.
Or you're distracted by other things, and you're not actually focused on what you really want.
Correct. Whereas it's about, if you want to find negativity, negativity is everywhere. But if you want to find positivity, then guess what? Positivity is everywhere as well.
Okay, so Hayden's book that I was referring to as Stillness is the Key. That's I think that we were talking around that. It reminded me of that, what you were talking about, calm or still moments, or silent moments.
Yeah,
actually.
Well, the magic spot. Remember I talked about the magic spot about a month ago, where you can take your little square of carpet and you go and sit out in the rainforest and you just sit and you be with your own thoughts. 100%.
I know I'm joking about it, but it's actually really good.
I've got to say, and for those who didn't hear me say it, we did a 3-day event. I did 3 of them. So I went as a participant, crew, and then spoke on stage. And each time I was involved, goals. Each time I was involved, then the most profound moment was the moment which is called Magic Spot, where we're giving a little square of carpet, and you walked out to the bush and you weren't allowed to talk, and you had a vow of silence, and for an hour or so you had to sit there in silence on your little square of carpet in the middle of a rainforest, and you had to be with your thoughts.
How would you go, actually, this is really interesting, how would you go, have you heard about those silent retreats?
Yeah.
Like 7-day silent retreat, no talking?
Yeah.
How are you good with that?
I would struggle, but doing it for a few hours, then absolutely I can. Yeah, I can. But 7 days.
I can.
Trust me, I can. So, but doing it for 7 days, no. It would be like me trying to give up ice cream for a couple of days. It just won't happen. It's called self-awareness. So
Ken Murray says, true, Tony, to your response to his thoughts earlier.
Good.
So really good interaction today, guys. I really appreciate everyone coming on to say their thoughts. And then Tony and I are talking about that, or elevating you to maybe a potentially higher level. So some of the things that you guys are, probably, I guess if I was to judge, you may be like 80 or 90% there, but it's that extra little cream on top that might change your thought process in how you say things to yourself.
Yeah, I would frame it differently. I would say encourage, not judge. So we want to encourage you to strive to be better. Again, progression is better than perfection. And the whole idea is if we can give you one extra nugget of gold for this next week, then we have helped you move forward.
Just might elevate you 1%.
Exactly.
Or 5%,
if you have moved forward that far, and we talk about this all the time, you don't have to go from here to here. You have to go from here to here, and then here to here, and it's just gradually.
But you might go in that circle shape like we talked about earlier.
Absolutely could
in terms of entrepreneurs. Sean, the problem... Oh, no, we already read that. So just flicking through. Sean says, as Tony said, we could do these things. Luke can fill in on some of the things later, but Kelly and I chose to rise above. I'm just getting mixed up with some of the 7 days, not a chance.
I agree with you, Ken.
Not
Murray,
a chance,
no chance.
Imagine Ken and you trying to go silent for 7 days.
It's not going to happen.
Ken can't go silent for about 3 minutes.
Wow. No, I can do it.
Is talking to yourself okay?
Yeah, but just not aloud.
No words.
Not out loud.
No words. That's right. It's dealing with your own thoughts. And this is really good training. Like, it's kind of like me. There's a couple of people that I've seen similar to me in this way. But if I'm like doing a mundane job like painting or cleaning or whatever, it's very repetitive. You're sitting with your own thoughts. And for me, that's my quiet moments sometimes, and maybe I need to be doing more of that. I know a friend of mine has done some painting recently, and she's like getting away from work. She's actually doing something, but it's quite mundane, and it allows her time to think and sit back. So maybe for some people it's just the sitting that helps, maybe it's doing something that is quite mundane that allows you then to start thinking.
Sure.
Obviously, you want to have probably a pen and paper there, because some of those magical ideas come. I know people talk about in the shower that they get all these thoughts.
Yeah,
Won't mention any other places, but we'll stay with that.
Absolutely. So it's about then you're capturing all those sorts of things. So for me, I go through a morning routine where I'm able to do this sort of stuff. But again, it's self-awareness. It's about finding what works for you. Don't just copy me because I said this is what I do. Find your own version of it, but spend time on your own thoughts. That's the key. As I said, generally speaking, people just don't even do it. They're always looking for something else to distract them because they're worried when they sit with their own thoughts what may come up for them. And so it's much easier to avoid that and do something else that takes me off the fact that I need to think about my own thoughts. And we talk about it all the time. It's those two magical questions that you want to ask yourself on a daily basis. Luke, what are they?
Who knows? No, it is. What can I do differently? What did I do well, and what can I do differently?
Absolutely, and ask
every
those
day.
questions. Ask those questions.
And I
of yourself.
realize why Tony repeats himself a lot is to teach me about these things, because I keep forgetting.
But not just for you, for everybody, because it's free. Just do them. You don't need to have a coach with you. You do it by yourself, and you reflect on. Because the reality is that we all operate from a subconscious position. And so this helps us elevate into our conscious mind. And so by thinking about the things that we did well, you start to feel good about it. You start to have a gratitude in your heart. Because we're too easy. If I say to people, and I say to you often, how you going? People will go, missed opportunity, that went wrong, this went, blah, 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 dwell, as opposed to what went well. Oh. And it happens all the time. I go into a lot of coaching sessions, and you think my clients would know by now. I ask the same two questions at the start of every session, and yet they'll go, oh. And they'll really have to think about what went well because they're so prepared to unload on all the shit that's happened. And it stops them in their tracks. And then all of a sudden they come up with a whole list of things. And we can keep going. We keep going. And it's amazing that when you push someone into that space, it's like, oh my gosh, you've come up with 8 things that have gone well. Cool. Now, the negative stuff, when they get onto that, it's not as negative as it originally was.
Yeah. Really interesting.